We obviously all watched the news last week, this horrific Islamic terror attack at the naval base in Pensacola. I want to, I guess, just take a moment and show you the picture of the gentleman who engaged in this conduct this is the Pensacola Naval Base. That guy is the shooter, the deadly shooter. His name is Mohammed al-Sham. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it correctly. Mohammed al-Shamrani. Mohammed al-Shamrani. He is a Saudi national, meaning he's a Saudi Arabian citizen. He was here in America training at Pensacola Naval Base, training to become a pilot. And he decided to open fire on that naval base and ended up killing 3 people. And, you know, I was going to go through the stories of those 3 people. I mean, these were young, sweet, young men, patriots in this country, people who volunteer to serve in our military. I will at least tell you their names. One of them was actually okay, can't tell you the names quickly. It's the wrong sheet of paper. I have their names in here. Anyway, 3 young men. One of them very recently out of training and all excited told his parents, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to help stand guard at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. And so instead he is shot to death. Heroes involved, as there always are in these kind of situations. And I want to just comment on a couple aspects of this story. Number 1, this guy who did the shooting, who was, fortunately, or I always think it's fortunate, was killed, so he's no longer with us, but his allies, one of them was apparently filming the attack. One of his other fellow Saudi nationals filming this attack on innocent Americans serving at Pensacola Naval Base. They had the previous night, he and some other buddies had gotten together to watch videos. Again, Saudi nationals who are being trained on our military bases using our facilities and our trainers and our information, sat around and watching videos about massive terror attacks. I mean, that's like entertainment, I guess, to them. Watching videos, pumping themselves up. And these are people who had, apparently some among this group involved, had actually traveled to New York City to watch the lighting of the big Christmas tree in New York City, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, this American tradition that so many families think about doing if they live in the East Coast. Maybe we should go to New York City. And I want to again point out a couple of things, and there are many points I want to make about this story as it relates to security in America. Number 1, this guy had been here at least since 2017, the shooter, this murderer, this Islamic jihadist murderer. He had been here long enough to see the nobility of the American military, to receive the benefit of American military training, to travel to New York City to see our Rockefeller Center and the whole beauty of New York City's, celebration of Christmas. He had been around American soldiers who had, I'm sure, welcomed him, helped him, trained him, helped him learn what he's supposed to be here to learn. And so he's seen enough of American culture to appreciate that even if he grew up in a Muslim community in Saudi Arabia that was profoundly anti-American, profoundly Western civilization, profoundly anti-Christian, profoundly pro-jihadist, even if he grew up in that environment, he'd had 2 years here to see what America's like, to see really good, noble people serving in the military. But even those 2 years here, even getting the benefit of American tax dollars paid to help train him to be a pilot, that goodness of America, that window he had in the goodness of America was not enough to overcome what he had learned at home in Saudi Arabia, growing up in a Muslim majority country, a Sharia compliant country. And in fact, Saudi Arabia is the home of Wahhabi Islam, the most radical, evil, deadly, horrific form of Islam. That's where he grew up. That's what he learned going to school, the way people are taught in Islamic countries to respect the idea of Islam having as a core teaching, and Islam has as a core teaching in the Quran, out of the mouth of Muhammad, taught by imams all around this world, taught in Islamic schools and the madrasas, taught in Islamic universities, that the core duty of a devout Muslim is to spread Islam. It's not the duty to, like Christians may think, I'd like to, in an evangelical outreach, share my Christian faith and invite you to come to church on Sunday. It is a duty, it's a core of Islam that says devout Muslims must seek to foist Islam on the world, ultimately to bring the world into submission to Islam. So, this young man here in America for 2 years decides to shoot up a naval base. I want to hit a bunch of points about him. The FBI, at least this time, they first tried to say they weren't too sure about the cause. They came out pretty quickly saying, looks like it was terrorism. The Saudis have, to their attempt to credit themselves, the Saudis have launched an investigation about whether the Pensacola shooter, this is the Saudis' words, was this Pensacola Saudi national Muslim shooter who killed 3 innocent Americans, was he radicalized on a recent trip home? He'd gone back to Saudi Arabia, I think it was the end of 2018, whatever it was. He went back, and so they're trying to say, oh yeah, well, we'll do an investigation. We'll try to figure this out. We'll try to figure out whether he got radicalized on this recent trip. People, many Muslims are innocent and do not commit jihad. Many Muslims do not commit jihad. But the argument America has to have is not with each individual Muslim. It is the question of, can we come to terms with, can we connect the dots, can we deal with the reality that Islam itself, the religion, the faith, its leaders around the world encourage devout Muslims to engage in jihad for the purpose of bringing the rest of the world into submission of Islam, into submission to Islam. Once we get that fact straight, we can then adjust how we think about programs like bringing Saudi military people and letting them be on American military bases. We could reassess that. We could say, you know what, it's not enough that, he's got a pretty good track record and he hasn't been arrested yet in Saudi Arabia, and he hasn't, so far committed any crimes. We need to understand, what do you think, buddy, about the idea of the founding teachings of Islam? Do you understand that in America, we don't do jihad. We don't do Sharia. You're coming here to benefit from us. We have to be far more careful in how we vet people we're willing to permit to come to our country. And as far as the military bases go, we had Fort Hood happen right here in the great state of Texas. We should have at that time decided, we have to be really careful about who we bring to America. Now, I realize the Fort Hood shooter was an American citizen. But the idea, we've seen this play before, been there, done that. We know this story. We need to be protective of our own military and our military bases enough so that we are not bringing people to those bases who mean people harm. And if we aren't sure if they mean them harm, why don't we train them somewhere else? We don't have to bring them here. But so this whole idea of the Pensacola shooter, and Saudi Arabia is trying to help out by saying, hey, we're going to find out how he was radicalized. How about because he was probably taught in an Islamic school? How about because he was a devout Muslim? That would be one reason. And also, I want to, there was just several aspects of the story I want to be sure and cover. There were other people arrested by the authorities after the shooting happened. I think it's 5 or 6 other Muslim members of the Saudi military serving at the Pensacola Naval Base. There are also people missing from that base, Saudi military people missing from that base. We're now looking for unaccounted Saudi nationals following the Pensacola shooting. And we have we have these, they're called students, they're here being students to learn from our military. But the idea that we don't know where they are, at least the FBI is agreeing we got to find them, but we've got to be smarter in our country about this idea that we don't have to. We can have Saudi Arabia as an ally. To a certain degree, they are they're our main Muslim country ally, along with probably Egypt. Egypt is kind of more of an ally. But we don't have to be stupid. We don't have to continue bringing people to America who may mean us harm. We don't have to agree because the Saudi military would like to have some of their people trained in America that we have to do it here. We have to have a better vetting process, and in the interim, we need to stop bringing them here. stop bringing Saudi military people to American military bases, because we should have by now figured out that they actually, many of them, can mean us harm. So it was 6 Saudis that were that were arrested, and then there were the others who are being sought in a massive manhunt. One last thing on this story, along with the idea about Islamization. We have in this country the idea of Islamization is both that as a form of jihad. Some people, some Muslims following the command in Islam to commit jihad, commit violent jihad, as we've seen all over Western Europe, we've seen all over the world, Northern Africa, all over the world. But some commit jihad in a cultural way. It's cultural jihad or civilizational jihad. So they spread Islam not by engaging in a violent attack, but instead by engaging in manipulation of the culture, manipulation of the people in the country that is welcoming them, slow pressure on that country to change its laws to at least accommodate Islam, and then to give Islam a preference, and then to agree that Islam must never be criticized in the media. So, getting around to say in Twitter and social media, Pete Hegseth, the great Fox News personality, and he's a fabulous guy, he posted on his Twitter account a screen grab of the tweet put out by this jihadist who committed the killing at Pensacola. The jihadist from Pensacola, who is deceased, thank goodness, but he had tweeted out a few hours before he engaged in this mass violent attack at the naval base, tweeted out about how much he hates America and how evil America is, and America's wrong and they're evil and blah, 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 and just on and on attacking America. And if he hates us so much, why does he even come here? But he posted that attack. Pete Hegseth screen grabbed and put that attack up on his, Pete Hegseth's, Twitter feed to say, this is what this guy said. Now, of course, right away after the guy committed this act, this horrific violent attack, Twitter quick pulls down his Twitter feed. We can't have people thinking there's some connection between, this jihadist attack and the teachings of Islam. Can't have that. So they pulled down his Twitter account, the killer's Twitter account, and then Pete Hegseth had a screen grab of this particular tweet that attacked America and said how much he hates America, and Twitter they banned Pete Hegseth. They took him off of Twitter because he said, now, he'll be back on, but the point is, Twitter playing along with that Islamization mission of manipulating culture, manipulating media, manipulating politicians, manipulating police, manipulating the host culture to where you can't connect dots between the teachings of Islam and the conduct of Islamic jihadists. You're not supposed to do that. You can't connect those dots. You must pretend you have absolutely no idea why this guy might have done this, and you're going to look for where he got radicalized. But by golly, we cannot possibly have blame cast at the source of what motivated this guy to engage in this conduct. So, my heart's broken for the families of those young men, 3 young men who lost their lives at Pensacola last week, and the idea that we are living in a culture where we can't figure out maybe we shouldn't be bringing Saudi military people here and let them have access to our military bases. Maybe this is not wise. I'm sure we can think of another way to help them without bringing their. But in the meantime. And there was one good comment, and I actually think it was from the governor of Florida. I can't remember, I don't have it in front of me. But actually there were 2 good comments. One from the Florida governor just kind of saying, we got to look into this, why these people are coming here. But we also had Secretary of Defense Mark Esper said the Pentagon plans to review the screening process for foreign students after the deadly shooting at the Naval Air Station in Pensacola. So at least we're going to look at the question, why is it? What do we screen? What do we look for? How do we figure out who we're okaying to bring to this country and allow access to America's military bases and ultimately permit them to end up in a situation where we are, where 3 precious young American patriots lost their lives, all of them heroically, because that we had a guy on the military base, allowed on the military base, who obviously who meant America harm.